everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 7 of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, and I'm trying to be Mekamaru tonight. If I do my hair this way, it kind of looks like it. I was like, do I put like a toilet paper roll to make this stand up? But yes, oh my gosh, it's Mekamaru versus Mahito, supposedly. What are we gonna get with that? We don't know. But that's happening while Yuji and Megumi and Nobara, well, they've already seen Human Earthworm 4, but them and Urahime thought they were finding Mekamaru last episode, and sadly they were in the wrong place. And I'm a little bit nervous because I feel this could either go one of two ways. Either I don't think Mekamaru is getting out of this unscathed. No. I feel like either one of two things are gonna happen. Either he's gonna die, which if we just got Mekamaru getting a new body and then he's gonna die, that's gonna suck. So he's either gonna die or he is going to be incapacitated to the point where he can't tell them about the Shibuya Incident or whatever is being planned by Mahito and Ghetto. That's my theory, right? Somebody in the comments was saying, oh, well, you know, he might be all right. I mean, even if he tells them about the Shibuya Incident, there may not be anything they can do. And I'm like, so I don't know. I want Mekamaru to be okay, but I know this is Gege. I know this is Jujutsu Kaisen, and I know that people leaving from battles like these unscathed doesn't happen very often, right? It doesn't happen very often, but I've got some comments, not a lot yet, that I want to go through before we start this episode. Kaku noted that the semi-first grades, to clarify, are Inumaki. He was a first year when he was recommended, so that's good to note. It explains why in the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, he was sent on the special grade, first grade mission. Makes sense, because he was already a semi-first grade. That makes sense. Mekamaru is semi-first grade. Kamo is a semi-first grade, and then so is Urahime, and those are the only ones we know of so far. So that's good. Good to know, right? Good to know. And then Jordan G said that Mekamaru looks like the love child of Aki and Nezumi from number 6. And I'm like, yes, he does. He has the little pointy ponytail like Aki from Chainsaw Man, and he does look a lot like a Nezumi from number 6, which it's Shion's birthday from number 6 today, and I'm like, my heart, I miss them so much. Anime Annie talked about how Kuroko Sato is actually a reference from Yu Yu Hakusho, not Kuroko's basketball, like I said in the last episode, which I love that Akutami is just making 90s references. Gege is just like, let's make all the 90s references. It goes back to Bleach, it goes back to lots of things. Love it. I love that Yu Yu Hakusho is getting referenced. You could tell in a vague capacity that I feel like Urahime seems like, not like Botan from Yu Yu Hakusho, but her design with the outfit and everything kind of is, she's like a cross between if Botan and Yukina was sassy-er, right? I see the reference, right? It's nice. Nice to see the influence. And then apparently several reactors thought that Miwa was the mole. Oh no, not Miwa. I like the idea. I can see why a bunch of reactors would think Miwa was the mole because she seems very unsuspecting. But no, my heart was always loyal to Miwa. I knew that she was not the mole. She's too pure. And then Anime Annie said that a lot of the reactors that thought she was the mole were also Gojo stans. And I'm like, they were just jealous that she got to get a selfie with Gojo and not them. That's great. The way that it's worded, supposedly both Mei Mei and Todo cannot work with the 5 that were recommended to be first grades. So it's not just the fact that Todo can't work with Yuji, Megumi, or Nobara because he recommended them, but neither can Mei Mei because they recommended them together. It takes 2 people to recommend the first grades. So man, none of those 5, none of our crew can work with Mei Mei or Todo. That's sad. I don't know. There's a lot of talk about tradition and the Jujutsu Kaisen, like the culture and the way that we do things. And obviously we know Gojo's kind of like whatever with all of that. I'm wondering if this Shibuya Incident, whatever it ends up being, is going to make the Jujutsu Society have to bend the rules and have to break the rules to survive. Because I think that's where it's headed, right? I think this whole idea that Todo and Mei Mei can't work with Yuji and all them, I'm like, bullshit. I think that in the end of the day, if there's a threat big enough, Todo's gonna be like, no, my best friendo needs me, screw your traditions, and what are they gonna do, you know? the old man going to take his guitar and like hit them over the head with it, you know. I think that that's going to be what's challenged, is the idea of Jujutsu society being threatened and challenged and having a forced evolution of its own, perhaps. We'll see. Tamiya talked about how Yuji, before meeting with Fushiguro, was playing pachinko, which is technically, it's a gambling game, but it's illegal for people under 18. So Tamiya was pointing out that while Yuji is this really good character in terms of his personality, his empathy, how emotional he is, he's also, you know, he's a teenager and he's got flaws. You know, he was out doing illegal gambling when he shouldn't have been. So that's really fun. I like that that's pointed out. And then in the OP, the funeral procession, which is, that's what it is Nobe-okuri, which is a funeral procession. And now it seems like it's similar to Western funeral processions, where now we have cars that take people to a funeral. This is done by foot. So I'm like, in my head at first when I was thinking about what to say with this comment, I was like, oh, so someone dies in this arc. And then I rethought it, went, so people are going to die in this arc. I was like, oh my God, are we going to have more than one death? Well, we had Riko and Toji die in the first 5 episodes, so that seems very likely. I don't want to think about characters dying. I like all of these characters. They're all nice. I'm like, who are we sacrificing in this? I don't want to think about it. And I know you guys are all sitting on your hands being like, like, you know, chuckling away. But yeah, it's usually done at a funeral procession as they take the deceased to their burial place. Like I said, the death flags are out for Mechamaru. I don't feel good about it. But hey, who knows? Maybe things will work out. And finally, Sarah Linda. Sarah Linda says, does Mahito healing Mechamaru affect the heavenly pact that's on him? I hadn't thought about that. So yeah, Sarah Linda's like, well, does it affect the heavenly pact? Because technically if he's healed, then the pact seems like, would it be null and void? And I'm like, I don't know. So Sarah Linda's wondered, I think they're anime only as well, wondered if maybe they would have that cursed energy they stored up and then they wouldn't be able to use any after that. So that is a third possibility. It could be that Mechamaru does end up living, but he loses the ability to be a Jujutsu sorcerer and he doesn't have any cursed energy left and he just has to be a monkey, as Ghetto would call him. That would be rather interesting. I think I would be okay with him being normal if it meant he got to live. I'm fine. And calling him normal, what even is normalcy, right? So, but yeah, those were comments. Not a whole crazy lot of them this time, but that doesn't mean anything. I want to give a really quick shout out over to Patreon, to our people on our philanthropy tier, because they're amazing and awesome, and we have some new ones on here, so I wanted to give them a special shout out and thank them for being just going above and beyond to be awesome people and help me do the things I do the cosplay that I do, even though this week was like literally a scarf and some eyeshadow and a ponytail. So this cosplay was pretty low key this week, but want to give a special shout out to our philanthropy tier, over to Edgar, to Dana, to Be Happy, to Alex Cornejo, to Kiri, to Nameless Monster, to Shimoyama, to Argent, to Matthew Palfiniere, to Tyrone, to Anime Annie, to Sunspots, to Eric, to Translucent Men, to Anna, to Legatus, to Goob, as well as, am I missing anybody else? I feel like I've got everybody. Oh yeah, and Ashley Got No Bitches. Name gets me every time. But thank you guys so much for all of your support. I deeply appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I don't know what to expect out of this episode. Obviously, Mechamaru versus Mahito. Is Ghetto going to get involved? I don't know. I think it will depend on if anybody else shows up. If it's just Mechamaru versus Mahito, kind of like Nanami versus Mahito, and nobody shows up, then I think that the battle will just be between them and Ghetto will just peace out with Mahito. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw and Mechamaru and Mahito like both took each other out, and then Ghetto like picked up Mahito and was like, hey, bye, and then like got out of there and left Mechamaru to suffer. I could see that. But I don't know. Mahito has the domain expansion and that's pretty terrifying. So I don't know if Mechamaru has a domain expansion. I don't feel like he does, but I don't know for sure. So I'm going to throw this ball one more time. Go lay down. Probably not. My little cursed spirits. And we're going to start this episode and just see what we get. So, in any case, we're going to start episode 7 of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's open this sucker up, and I'll see you all on the other side. I like how before I started this episode, I was like, oh, well, maybe he'll die, or maybe he'll be incapacitated, or maybe he'll, become just a normal person without any curse energy, or I just need confirmation. And then this episode went, we're not going to confirm anything. I was like, I hate you! Gege! I feel like I'm going to be going, Gege! Like this entire rest of this arc. So, fun times. A part of me is like, man, this discussion is not going to be very long because most of this episode was just action and animation. And I was like, all right. But I hate the idea that we don't get confirmation. Now, do I believe that Mechamaru is dead? Yeah, I do. I think he's dead. I think they give us plenty of context clues to tell you that he's dead. But there's just always that part of you that's like, I just need to know. And I want confirmation. And this show, for the most part, has been very brutal about how confirming it is. It's just like, okay, well, yeah, Riko, she's dead. We didn't ever find out specifically about the maid of Riko, but she's probably dead because we've not heard from her again. Either she's dead or they let her go and they just don't want to bring her back into this for obvious reasons. But Riko, yeah, totally dead. Yes, absolutely. Toji, yep, pretty much dead. We get confirmation about that. Ghetto, supposedly dead, but, here he is. And we'll talk about Ghetto. But for the most part, whenever they kill a character off, they kill them off, and you know specifically that they're dead. Junpei, yes. But in this case, we just don't know about Mechamaru. A part of me thinks, okay, yes, he's dead. A part of me wonders, if Ghetto took him. Did Ghetto transform him into the little screw thing? We need to go back there. Did they idly transfigure him into the screw thing? I don't know. We'll talk about that little screw with the weird seals on it. I don't think so, but we're going to posit all the theories because I can posit all the theories. But yeah, I hate not getting confirmation. I like knowing for sure if my characters are alive or dead, because if Gege doesn't confirm it now, there's always a possibility that Mechamaru can show back up and offer some information like in the final hours. What would suck really bad is if this whole Shibuya thing goes down. I can't believe we're already here. I can't believe we wasted no time. It was just like, oh yeah, Mechamaru at 10 days, yep, he's down, bye. And then we're already at the Shibuya incident. I have a feeling next episode we are going to backtrack and get to where we got to in this one, because the series likes to do that. It likes to take you forward in time, and then you go, wait, how did we get here? And then the next episode it takes you back a notch and says, okay, here's how you got there. So I have a feeling that next episode we'll backtrack, probably confirm that Mechamaru's dead, for all we know. Maybe not. And then get to how we organize the teams and what the strategy is and how this veil works and all of that, because they've made clear that something's going to happen in Shibuya. They knew that going in. But yeah, I don't know. We need to talk about this episode and go through it and pick out all the little tiny things, because I feel like the tiny little things that are set up in this episode are going to come back later on. And Ghetto being super interested in Mechamaru has me wondering. So this episode, though, holy cow, the details in the animation, Mappa, honey. Mappa, y'all went all out. Like the colors, the animation, the expressions, the energy. It was mainly the energy. Like the animation was not the most hyper detailed, and at times it was frantic. The line work was frantic, and I could see some people maybe complaining about it, but for me, the line work being frantic and like unpolished, it fits Mahito perfectly because Mahito is unpolished. He's very frantic and chaotic. And so the line work kind of matching that. The color saturation, like everything was in these most vibrant, bold colors, which is great because a lot of this series, when it's not like comedy, is fairly muted in tone. So seeing like all the big bright colors was really cool. All of the reds, all of the action, the franticness of it all. It was great. And the idea that Muto was in just a mech this entire time, just an EVA unit. It was great. So yeah, I loved just the little details of Mechamaru trying to like power through and get the tech of this suit against Mahito figured out. Mahito's a problem. I know that y'all are like, this has been known since season 1. Mahito is a problem because that fight was insane, and Mahito walks away going, oh, I knew I had it. I knew what I was doing. I was just like testing the waters. We've known from the beginning with Mahito's creation in season 1 that he's born from all of these negative energy from the people, which I'm like, all the people that were sucked up on the train, is that going back to the OP? Is that referring to Mahito sucking them all up for energy? Could see that. But the big question, of course, being, you know, with Mahito, he's still learning and he's like a little adolescent, so he's not at his most dangerous yet, and that's terrifying. He's basically like a version of Yuji. He's like a cursed spirit version of Yuji, where Yuji is developing and growing as an individual and getting more powerful, and Mahito is kind of like the mirror of that. He's the cursed spirit version of that. And you have Gojo tutoring Yuji, and you have Ghetto tutoring Mahito, and you just have this polar opposite connection happening, and it's like, okay, what do we do with that, right? But I felt bad for Muda, because Muda, God, if it had been anybody else Muda was facing, I think he would have won. But he got down, my math was off, which surprises no one, I'm bad at math. But he was down in 9 years when he created the simple domain. And he was down to 9 years when he was talking about the protection and everything. There is like a 5% part of me, 5%, not very much. 95% of me says that Mechamaru's dead, and we're going to find that out next episode, and it's going to be sad, and I don't want to see Miwa be sad about it, but I'll talk about that. But there's a 5% part of me that's like, Mechamaru isn't dead, and he's going to come back and be relevant later on in the series. But I'm not holding out hope. The fact that Ghetto and Mahito walked away looking so confident, and that we saw the EVA unit destroyed, does not bore good. And I hate that Gege doesn't show us what ended up happening, right? So there's an interesting thing here where Mechamaru is absolutely dependent on Gojo. He's like, I just need Gojo to get here. And so I want to talk about that. I guess we might as well bring out the markers for Whiteboard Kun and talk about that briefly. This idea of the dependency of Gojo. So Gojo like Billy Squire is playing and Everybody Wants You. is like going off the rails right now. But basically, like, the idea that Mechamaru, he was depending on Gojo. The fact that normal people in the city know Gojo's name because Ghetto is trying to lure Gojo to seal him away. Which is, it's so dark and twisted. You know why? Because there was this idea back in episode 4 and episode 5, specifically episode 5, of Ghetto worrying that everyone was relying on Gojo, and Gojo was going to be put in constant danger, and Gojo training his technique to be on all the time, and it's slowly destroying him and rebuilding him over and over again infinitely. You know, you could tell Ghetto was really worried about that, and he's like, I don't want my friend to have to go through this, and this is awful. And now, whatever has taken over Ghetto, it's almost like a dark shadow version of that, where he's like, oh, well, we'll just seal Ghetto away. We'll just seal Gojo away, and then he won't have to do any of that. Aha, see, you'll get what you want, Ghetto. It's almost like, I wonder if like this curse, or the curse user, whatever devil, deal with the devil Ghetto has made with whatever has taken him over. I wonder if it was like to convince him to let it control him. He was like, don't worry, we're going to seal your lover Gojo away where he won't get hurt anymore. But I need your body to do that. And Ghetto was like, take me. You know, at that point, I don't know, right? I don't know. But Gojo getting sealed away, it's like, we got to get Superman out of the picture because he's going to stop us otherwise. He's the one thing that stands in our way from world domination. We got to get Gojo out of the picture. And that's going to be interesting because if they do manage to seal up Gojo, which sounds terrifying, but if they do manage to do it, then is it going to like force an evolution between the ones that are left over? Is Nobara and Yuji and Megumi going to have to forcibly evolve to fill in the gaps. I mean, Gojo was kind of setting that up with Megumi from the start. Gojo's like, you need to get as strong as I am, so if something happens to me, you can still protect yourself. And I feel like Yuji I'm not so worried about, because he's got Sukuna, and Sukuna's proud, and Sukuna ain't gonna go down with the fight, and Sukuna really doesn't like Mahito at all, and I don't think he cares for Ghetto, so I'm not worried so much about Yuji necessarily. And Megumi, I don't know about Megumi. That would be interesting if Ghetto... What's odd is that, you know, Ghetto doesn't seem that he's targeted Megumi at all, which shows that it's something else taking over Ghetto, because Ghetto, knowing Megumi is Toji's son, you think you would target him, but no, it's not the case. Nobara I worry about a little bit, because I feel like Nobara is pretty capable. She's with Maki and the Zenin clan leader, which we'll talk about, but I just fear that Gojo's going to have to get... I don't know. Are they going to be able to steal Gojo or not? It seems like you want to think, no, they're not going to be able to do that, but we'll talk about this. Let's go through this and kind of work away, because there's some things Ghetto says that I'm like, don't stick well with me, right? And so he talks about how he has to get a hold of Gojo to get the veil, and he's going to extra... There were so many red flags with Mekamaru. This definitely felt like a shonen episode for sure. And what I mean by that is that all the old shonen that I watched, anytime the protagonist, anytime the main character was like, I'm going to win, I have to make it back to everybody, I have to save the day in order for us to survive, I'm like, you're dead. You don't say that in a shonen. It's just like jinxing yourself. And I felt like Mekamaru saying all those things was like Gege, because this battle, this episode feels like very traditional shonen. Like, you have the big mech, you have the main protagonist, he's got to get back to the lady of his dreams, all of this, and it felt very 90s shonen. And it also felt like by the, you know, in a typical 90s shonen, Mekamaru would have won, and he would have got to go see the girl and save the day. But it's like Gege went, this ain't your mama's shonen. We don't play by these rules. And I was like, can we play by these rules? Like, one time? Do you have to go against the grain, Gege? Do you have to do it? And he says yes, but damn. And I was getting worried about Mekamaru just firing off all his years. Like, I was like, you're going to run out of years, and then what are you going to do? But he had 9 left. I was like, okay. All the color, everything. And the idea that Mahito just, he uses everything to his advantage. He like uses the rabbit speed, he uses the animal transfiguration, he uses his domain expansion, like everything is used to his advantage. And the idea that the episode's called Evening Festival. So basically, the Evening Festival should have been a sign that we were going to get to Halloween. Should have been a sign in hindsight, but I was like, I thought Evening Festival was referring to a death, like we just talked about the processional. I thought it was going to mean that Mekamaru was going to die, and we were going to spend the rest of the episode having a festival for his funeral, and then talking about plans. I thought we were going to do that the rest of the episode, not immediately jump into Shibuya. But I feel like next episode we're going to backtrack and figure out how we got here. Right? How did we get here? But damn, Mekamaru and him. What's interesting is that Mekamaru, he does such good planning, but Mahito in his little poncho and little black skinny jeans. You know what? I feel like, knowing that Gege and Horikoshi, who creates My Hero Academia, are friends, I feel like Mahito is what Horikoshi would like Shigaraki to be. Shigaraki and My Hero Academia, I won't spoil things, they're very similar characters, they're both antagonists. I feel like Shigaraki is much more human, because he is a human, than Mahito. Mahito is like if Shigaraki just didn't have a soul. That's basically how it is. I feel like Gege was like, hey, my character looks a lot like your antagonist, but he's gonna be unhinged and not have a soul. Is that cool? And Horikoshi's like, yeah, that's cool. So that's where we're at. But they are very, very similar. Not only in terms of their abilities are very hand focused, like Shigaraki in My Hero Academia has lots to do with hands and decaying. And then you have Mahito, who uses his hands to transform things, and decaying can be part of that. So they are very similar. And so I'm glad that the two mangaka are friends and probably acknowledge that their antagonists have a lot of similarities. But yeah, this episode was just so well animated, and it was beautiful. It was great. And he's like, and whenever a protagonist in a series gets cocky, I'm like, don't do it. Don't get cocky. It's not a good sign. It never pans out well, right? And so he's like, I'm gonna get you with this attack. It's gonna be great. And he did manage for a long time to actually affect Mahito and get to where he couldn't regenerate, right? And that's what I wanted to go back to. I wanted to go back to him getting to where he's okay. Let me see what he says here. Ghetto's talking about as he's going down the hill. He says, I'm going. And I love that he uses the cursed energy to like thrust his engines forward. That's really cool on Mechamaru's part. And then Ghetto says it's affecting him. So what's interesting here is that Ghetto, I can't decide, right? I can't decide whether this is Ghetto talking or something else. Because it feels a lot like Ghetto, but I don't know. God, Gege with this mystery of what's going on with Ghetto. So Ghetto talks about how the cursed energy was affecting, I'm assuming he means affecting Mahito. I'm assuming he's talking about the cursed energy that Mechamaru is putting out is affecting Mahito. I'm assuming that's what he's referring to, right? He says it's affecting him. He's not doing badly. It may be temporary, but his output is special grade class. So we talk about energy output. Energy output is at a special grade level. Which he's talking about Mechamaru because Mahito's not really outputting any cursed energy. He's just dodging attacks, right, at this point. Gearing up to do his domain expansion. And he came prepared, fully prepared, yes, to deal with Mahito too. Yep, so he is talking about Mechamaru. Depending on how this goes, this could be the moment that I get. All right, so what does Ghetto want? What did Ghetto want from Muda? Depending on how this goes, this could be the moment I get what I want. What does he want? And he's going to go into more detail about it. Which again, this scene felt very reminiscent of Ghetto wanting Rika, because he wanted Rika being like, if I could have Rika, I wouldn't need to eat any more cursed spirits. I could just use her. And so he talks about her being the spirit that he wants the most. So this feels like Ghetto, but then it doesn't. I'm like, he's dead, so it can't be him. It has to be something else. And then the pigeon voila. It felt very Eva. This whole episode felt very Neon Genesis, which was great. And then him firing it at Mahito, at Birdman, because he thinks it's all just a ploy. And then, God, the animation of Mahito just turning into all the different animals, like just one after the other, and they do it almost in slow motion. And I felt like Mappa was just showing off at this point, being like, every animator that worked on this one scene, we're going to showcase all their hard work and show you how painstaking and meticulously they transform from one animal into another. It was really good. I liked it a lot. I was like, yes, cool. That was really, really nice. And then it shows like him becoming a rat and everything, a rat with little hair. I'm like, with little tiny pants. It's just like the little movie Witches, in the movie Witches where the little boy becomes the rat, like the little Mahito with his tiny little pants. I'm like, why did you need pants as a rat? You're a rat. We're not going to question it. And he instantly transforms like into a gorilla, back into like a bird, back into this weird, like just spider bat. Like, what the hell is this? And then him getting targeted by Mechamaru. I love the animation. I can't tell which of his attacks will actually affect my soul. So at one point, some of the attacks would affect Mahito, which is good to know, right? But we have this error in the system where he cuts the line, and that's when he tries to attack him and he punches him. And then when he says, I can do this, I was like, oh, honey, don't say that. He's like, I can see everyone. And I'm like, when he said that, he was thinking of Miwa. I like that he says, I can see everyone again, but he was just looking at Miwa. We saw no one else. It's going to suck if he's dead and Miwa, who was just like, seemed like on the verge of confessing her feelings, doesn't do anything with him. And I'm like, how dare. How dare, right? with the F. And that's just the idea of seeing that drill going towards him, and then his face is ripped off and he just starts yawning. It's like he's yawning like he's bored with the battle now, and activates his domain expansion. Just ridiculous. And then there he is, the self-embodiment of perfection. Or basically, Gege shows us how well he can animate hands. And it just like instantly runs through. It felt very end of Evangelion. I'm gonna be honest. With all the hands coming out of the purple, it felt very end of Evangelion, grabbing Mechamaru's unit. That's exactly what it felt like. I was like, oh my god. It was really, really great. But then we go down there, and he says, you're finished. And what does he say here? He says, it doesn't matter if I touch you directly once you're inside my domain. So he had 9 years, 5 months, and 6 days left. And he says, the curse technique is sealed in these, though that was the only way I was able to manage this technique. So what does he say here? He's like, there's only 10 days till Halloween. That's enough time for me to use my curse domain again. I don't like the idea of Mahito using the domain again. I don't like that idea at all. Nope. That makes me worried. Because, okay. So, he said he had 2 left in stock. So, let's get this right. We had Muda. He had 2 shots left, right? He had 2 shots. He's had 2 left in stock. And so, I don't like the idea that Mahito can use his domain expansion again during Shibuya. Let's not have him use it against anyone. Let's not have that. Let's not. Let's just forget about domain expansions for the rest of the season. This was devised in the Heian era, an era full of fierce curse spirits and curse users when Jujutsu is at its height. So, in the Heian era, he says, by Saratsuna Ashiya to protect his disciples. So, it's this technique from the Heian era, and it's Saratsuna Ashiya, and it was a technique to protect. So that's the simple domain. Like if they get into a situation with a fierce cursed spirit, how do they protect themselves? Don't incorporate hopes and dreams into your strategies. Oh, Mahito. It was passed down in his school, and the pack forbade his students from intentionally conveying the technique to others. Ah, so a pact. It was a pact that prevented intentionally teaching it. Interesting. Which I guess that's kind of cool in a way because it prevents somebody from just like intentionally passing it down to people that could abuse it. And so, but then how did he learn it? It's a means for them to protect themselves from others' domains. Yes. And then I like Mahito's like, wait a minute, what? A domain for the weak. The simple domain. Uh-huh. I like these like, huh? Like the animation's so good. New shadow style simple domain. I love this, just like him flipping off the camera. So it's the idea of the simple domain. So basically it's like a last resort. Like if all else fails, this will keep you from, it'll keep you from Mahito's domain. Okay. And then he says, and it shows him looking at Miwa. Like looking, so that's kind of like hers, isn't it? I've seen it all. Oh, it's kind of like her style. Oh, if he drew inspiration from her, just shut up. Muda. I love all the animals coming out of Mahito. It's really gross. It's very Akira. It's just, ugh. Yep. And then him, like, getting puffed out through the veil of the domain. Like, he looks so good there when he, like, lifts it up and he smiles like he did it. Like, Muda was so proud of himself for getting out of the domain expansion. Like, it sucks so much to see him, like, at this high and, like roaring with the mech. It's so good, right? And he's like, a simple domain. A domain that neutralizes all other techniques. So that's the thing, right? Ghetto says, oh, well, if I had this simple domain, if I had a simple domain, it would neutralize techniques. Okay. Okay. Is this what he wants to get? How can he get it? Right? Attacks will land even on Satoru Gojo when they're made within a domain. That one line there is the telltale sign that this is not Ghetto, because he calls him Satoru Gojo. If it were really Ghetto, he would have just said Satoru. He wouldn't have said Gojo. That is not Ghetto. There's something else there. Something else is there. Even if it's a simple one, activating it inside a domain would damage Mahito regardless of any techniques. Ah, so then what do we do with that? He's like, no more spectating from the sidelines. Oh, Mahmuda. When he said he was going to take on Ghetto, I was like, that's a terrible idea. Why would you do that? He's like, a happy miscalculation. I have one simple domain and 9 years of cursed energy left. I can fight Ghetto. I'm like, I would not fight Ghetto. Nope. Would not go after him. And then when he says I can win, I can see everybody, I'm like, stop it. Don't say you're going to see everybody and be Miwa. Nope. And then that's when Mahito comes in and goes after him. Oh my God. And Mahito's face, he just looks so gleeful. He's like, hee. He's so gleeful. It's terrifying. I didn't finish him off. So what, he's like, come out, Mechamaru. So did he get him right in the neck? Yeah, he got him right in the chest. Oh, he got him like right in the heart. Oh my God. Because he brought out Mechamaru. Okay, yep. And he said ram it directly into him. The domain. It was his last one. Because he had him go after him. And it like went through him, but Mahito kept going, right? And he went to aim and get the simple domain at him, the stake. But I don't think it did it. But it obviously didn't get Mahito. The question is, Ghetto, he was waiting. What did he want to get from Muda? Did he want to get the simple domain? Can he steal techniques? Can he steal techniques? That would be a bad thing if he could. If whoever's possessing Ghetto can steal techniques, that would be a very bad thing. Can he steal techniques and he's waiting to see the simple domain and then imitate it or copy it or take it as his own? I mean, because, yeah, that's it. Which, what irony that the one thing that could destroy Gojo is a simple domain. Something so simple could destroy something as complex as Gojo Satoru. It's ironic and amazing at the same time, but I'm like, so can Ghetto steal techniques? Is that why he wanted to? Did he want it because he kept wanting Muda? He's like, if he could pull this move out and I could steal it, which again would be irony too if Ghetto could steal moves, if whatever has possessed Ghetto could steal moves, and then the original Ghetto could steal curses. This whole scene with Miwa though is so heartbreaking, where she's like, I love the relationship we have now, and I want to become closer to you. One day I'll come and see you. And then all we get to see is the mech there, and it's completely destroyed. But we don't get to see what happened to Muda. I mean, I'm assuming he's dead, but we don't get to know for sure. And then Ghetto's like, wasn't that dangerous? He says, I made myself burst apart the instant his technique activated. So undoing my domain after that would make him think I was dead, right? They wasn't dangerous at all. That was another use of a simple domain. We got to see it in action before the main event. So he said that was another case of a simple domain. So they've seen this before, or they've been using it, right? So then what is this deal? This was a nail in the ground. He says, yeah, I was able to finish adjusting the entrusted veil too. There won't be any problems with entrusting the cursed energy and chant to others. Okay. So there's all these little seals around this nail. So I'm thinking the nail, right, is the nail the veil? Is that what starts the veil and that's what activates it? And when he takes it out of the ground, the veil disappears? Okay. So he's like, I've perfected the veil so I can entrust it to others. So basically he could give others the little cursed nails to like hammer around Shibuya and put the veil over it to where it can't be broken. Awesome. That's terrifying. Good deal. I don't like this. And then we just cut to Shibuya. We cut to everybody partying, but there's nobody on the streets. Like, the idea that we cut instantly to Shibuya being eerie and dark and empty is terrifying, right? And so we have this 400 meter, we have the idea of this 400 meter veil. The radius of 400 meters was lowered at 7 p.m. on Halloween. Centered around Tokyo department stores, Tokyo outlet, Toyoko outlet. Awesome. And so then everybody's there for Halloween. I like that we have the Scream mask. There's all the references. Everybody's like drinking and partying. Oh my God. And it's just the most ridiculous. There's like a nun and an angel. And like, it's so perfect for like, it's perfect. And there's like Frankenstein stuff. It's perfect for Mojito and them to sneak in because it's Halloween. Everybody's dressed as monsters. So you could show up as a monster and nobody would think you look weird. Oh my God. And then the one girl, she noticed the veil. So it's kind of cool to see there's like little hints that there are some people that can notice the veil and they can see cursed energy more so than others. But she sees it. Nobody else does. She's like, I'm telling you, it's right there. I like that, just the idea that the veil goes over and there we are. And then they find it's like hitting a wall, right? And then all the people start getting sucked up into whatever this is. I'm like, is it Mojito? Is he eating everybody? What the hell do we do? So it said 2014 in Shibuya. So, okay. So 7 p.m. the veil goes down, right? And 7 p.m. military time is 1900 hours, right? Right? So at 2014, that would be 8:14 p.m. So 8:14 p.m., an hour later after this, we have our first group show up, right? We don't know if they've been prepping this. We don't know what the deal is. It says same time outside the veil at Shibuya Station. It's a veil that traps only regular people inside. So, okay. I like that above the station there's like a for health insurance. I'm like, oh no! I'm like, for health insurance. I'm like, that seems horrifically and intentionally dark humor, Gege. I'm like, okay. So we're at the metro station, right? All right, at the metro station, we have Nanami's team. We have Nanami, Megumi, and Ino, right? I don't feel well for Ino. There's a lot of characters I'm like, you seem rather like a red shirt. I don't feel good for you. Okay, so sorcerers and assistant supervisors can go in and out. So if you're powerful enough, you can go in and out, but regular people cannot. They want Gojo to go in, though, and that does not make me feel good. That makes me feel like they want to trap Gojo in there, right, so that they can try to seal him away. And there's no signal. So they're like, use assistant supervisors or first exit the veil in order to communicate. And I like that Nanami's like, this is very troubling. I don't like this. So, Megumi is a grade 2 sorcerer. He's under evaluation for promotion. Ino is under evaluation for promotion. And Nanami is a grade 1. So, cool. So, we have Ino, Nanami, and Fushiguro. We have a grade 1 and 2 grade 2 sorcerers. Okay. Okay. It's interesting having Nanami and Megumi working together. I wouldn't have paired Nanami and Megumi, which is kind of cool. I like that. I like the dynamic we could get from that. So we have a grade 1, 2 grade 2s. I don't feel well for Ino. Ino gives off like the happy-go-lucky fun vibes, and I'm like, that doesn't give me the warm fuzzies, right? I like that Ino tries to explain to Fushiguro what a barrier in the veil is, and Megumi's like, I know already. He's like, I already have an idea. It's fine. He's like, yeah, blocking signals is just a side effect of the veil being lowered. It's like that little bit of exposition to the audience. If you forgot what a veil was from season 1,
we'll now explain it to you so that you don't forget. And Megumi's like, yeah, I already got that, but cool. And then Nanami's like, he's a talented man. Okay. So he's like, what about Gojo? I like Nanami's like, what about Gojo? So meanwhile, we have Mark City, Restaurant Avenue. So at Mark City at the same time, that's where we have our second team, which is the Zenin team, right? Interesting, that's Mark City. We have, this is Shibuya on Halloween. Something has happened here. I like the girl with the blonde hair. I forget where her name is. I like that we're passing off this information. So, okay. Here we go. We have now Bito Zenin. He's a special grade. I didn't know. I guess since Ghetto died, we had another special grade take his place. So we have now Bito Zenin, and he's a special grade. Special grade 1. Cool. Then we have Maki. She's grade 4, which I'm like, okay, under evaluation. And then Nobara is grade 3. Okay. All right. Okay. It's interesting that Maki is being made to work with the Zenin because she doesn't like any of the Zenins and they don't seem to like her. So her having to work with one of her family members is interesting. Nobara feels like the girlfriend that just like came along the family trip and is getting to know the family, but she's not been integrated in yet. So she's just like, but Nobara, you think she'd try to make a good impression, but she's like, I am who I am. This is what you're going to get. So I like it. I'm very curious about this dynamic. I don't know what to think about it. I don't get good vibes, even though the one guy is a special grade sorcerer. I feel like he's gonna get, I feel like all the extras are gonna get taken out, like Ino and the Zenin man. I don't get good vibes. But their group, I don't know what to make of it. It's interesting. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of conversation about bloodlines and things like that. Nobara, who doesn't really have a bloodline, he's like, we can't break the veil. They're like, we're having a hard time with it. It isn't preventing sorcerers from entering or leaving. We can't just break it by force. It's one of those things where it's like, it's flexible. You know, like if you have a glass that's very sturdy and rigid, you can break it easier. But if it's something like rubber that's just letting you in and out, then it's not as easy to just break. It'll be faster to find the curse user who lowered it and beat them up. Well, unless that's Ghetto, and then whatever. And she's like, no, you're all to wait here on standby. Okay, so I like that they're supposed to be on standby. I like that she specifically tells Maki, no, you guys are not to go in the veil. You're supposed to stay out here. Whatever it is inside wants us to come in, don't do that. So Maki's probably not going to listen. She's probably going to go in anyway. But I like they established, like, no, don't go in. So then we have Panda. They said they lowered an advanced barrier and called Satoru Gojo by name. This is likely the same culprits behind the exchange event. Yeah, so they want to lure Gojo in to attack them. They figured that out. So meanwhile, at the same time, at the south entrance, at the south station, we have Panda. Get him on here. That's likely the ones that caused the event a year ago when Ghetto died, right? The upper brass wanted to minimize casualties, so they've sent Gojo in alone to restore order in Shibuya. Oh, so they sent Gojo in by himself. Oh, well, no. Oh, no. So they sent Gojo in alone to Shibuya with nobody else with him, huh? Well, I mean, that tracks because they're like, well, if anybody can handle it by himself, it's Gojo. But I don't like that. I don't like Gojo being by himself for this. So then we have Kusakabe. I feel like we saw him in season 1, right? He's one of the teachers, and he is a grade 1. He's like Nanami. He's a grade 1. Okay. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't like the idea that Gojo went in by himself. And because that's exactly what they want. They want to trap him. And if they're able to trap Gojo and then lure everybody else in, then we got a problem. Okay.
Ooh, this is such a setup episode in this last. I like it as a lollipop. And he's like, everybody's here on standby. So Mei Mei is somewhere. Us, Nanami, Zenon's old man, and Mei Mei too. So Mei Mei has a team. Somewhere. Somewhere Mei Mei has a team. Maybe that's the one with Yuji. Maybe Mei Mei has Yuji with her. I thought she couldn't travel with Yuji, but I thought she couldn't travel. Well, I thought she couldn't travel with Mei Mei. Mei Mei, oh, Mei Mei might be with Inumaki. Inumaki might be the little kid holding the axe from the OP. Maybe she's with Inumaki. Then the question is, where's Yuji? Because Mei Mei said that, I thought we established that Todo and Mei Mei could not have Yuji on their team with them. So maybe Mei Mei is with Inumaki and Todo? Possibly. That seems like a high team there. So then the question is, where is Yuji? Whose team is he on? Is Yuji with Urahime? He might be. I could see Yuji with Urahime. I could see that. I could see Mei Mei, Inumaki, and Todo together. I could see Urahime and Yuji together. We're on standby outside the veil to catch any of Gojo's rebounds. Okay, and Panda is grade 2. Okay, so Panda is like Inumaki, right? Okay. And Ino and Megumi. I like that Panda's like high up there. Why can't the girls be high up there, Gege? Joking. So yeah, we're on standby in the veil. We won't be able to stay in contact once we're inside the veil anyway. So that is kind of smart. Yeah, send Gojo in alone because he's the only one that can handle it, that we think. And if anything goes down, then we'll have to do something. But once we're inside the veil, we can't communicate, so that's a problem. As long as we're outside the veil, we can all talk to one another on the phone before we make any rash decisions. Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. He's like, to minimize casualties, they're talking about sorcerer casualties. I like that Panda brings that up. He's like, so basically when we say minimize casualties, they don't care about the people in the veil. They just care about the sorcerers. Which is so interesting, right? Because Ghetto was in such belief that the casualties that mattered were the people that were not sorcerers. And here Panda's saying, well, no, it's kind of the opposite. They're kind of saying that the sorcerers are the ones we're worried about. It's interesting to bring that up because I wonder what Ghetto would say about that if he heard that conversation. Interesting. I like that Kusakabe is like, don't get bristly with me, you giant panda. This is not like last year. The events are already in motion. This was the best call. I like that Kusakabe's like, everything seems to be okay. The curses aren't hurting any people. They're waiting for sorcerers to come to hurt them, which again is interesting. And again, makes me think that it's not Ghetto in charge of this whole thing because Ghetto would have just gotten rid of all the people. If he could have, he would have gotten rid of all the people and wouldn't be targeting the sorcerers. So this is not Ghetto. It's something else. But what it is, we don't know. And Kusakabe's like, I don't like going in there because there's special grades in there. Okay. And I don't want to go back inside there. And he's like, why is that? He's like, it was in Hikari, I think. Okay. There's lots of special grade curses, spirits underground. Nice. So at the same time, inside the veil on Bunkamura Street in Dojin, in some place, I like this one guy that calls everybody dumbasses and being like, you sheeple, think for yourselves. And so they're like, they kept calling out that they wanted to have Gojo come around, right? And he's like, what about the people that got sucked up? Why aren't we talking about them? And then 6'3" Gojo walks in and he's like, oh, sorry. And then it's like at 2031, Satoru Gojo arrives. It seems like a true crime episode. This reads like an episode of True Crime where it's like, and at this time this happened, and at this time that happened. Does not give me the warm fuzzies whatsoever. No. So basically at 8:31, Gojo shows up, like 15 minutes later. I don't like where this is headed. Nope. And that's the end of the episode, isn't it? It is. Yep. It's the end of the episode. Not feeling it particularly. No. So we don't know where Yuji is. We don't know where Urahime is. We don't know where Mei Mei, Inumaki, or Todo are. We don't know where any of them are specifically, or Kamo, or Momo, or Mei. We don't know where any of them are. We do know that Nanami, Megumi, and Ino are together. Naobito, Maki, Nobara, Panda, Kusakabe,
So got groups of 2, 3, and 3. So Yuji and Udahime could be together, for all we know. Mei, I think, will be with Inumaki and Todo. Or maybe Todo was just like, I have to be with my best friendo, and he just begged and pleaded till they let him be with Yuji. I don't know. In the OP, they're together, so maybe that ends up being the case. Ghetto wanting to utilize the simple domain as a way to hurt Gojo and to seal him away. And then they can do whatever they want because Gojo's the only threat they really face, supposedly. But how do you seal Gojo away? How indeed? I don't know. I don't get warm fuzzy vibes from any of this. And everybody's been like, I don't want anybody. Well, let me be clear on this. Some people have been like, you're not ready for the Shibuya arc. You're not ready for the pain. I don't want to know any specifics. I don't even want to know how I'm not ready. I already know I'm not ready. So I don't want anybody elaborating on how I'm not ready because I am aware. So we don't get confirmation about Mekamaru, which surprises no one. Why should we be surprised that they won't confirm that? But I think he's dead. If he turns out to not be dead, I will be happily not surprised. But I don't think he's alive. But my hope is that next episode we backtrack just a wee bit, even if it's for like 2 minutes, and we just backtrack to whatever the aftermath was with Mekamaru. Where's Miwa and all this? Miwa's probably incapacitated, so she's probably no good for this mission. She's probably emotionally compromised. And honestly, I love Miwa to pieces, but what's she gonna do? You know? So, what's interesting is that of our groups, I'm assuming Kusakabe has a domain expansion. I'm assuming. And that's why he's with Panda. We know that Megumi has a domain expansion. Nanami does not. We know that... does Nobara have a domain expansion? I don't think so, but now Bito probably does. And then Yuji and Udahime... And then Mei, and I want to see Mei's domain expansion. It's just like a bunch of black birds. It's like literally Hitchcock's The Birds. They attack you and then she like chops your head off like a guillotine. I want it. So yeah, this episode was like half amazing action, classic shonen battle extravaganza with a Gege twist. And then the other half of it was a true crime episode and the introduction of one. So what do we do with that? That's what I got. So I'm very excited to hear your thoughts down below. This episode makes me nervous because I don't know what's coming and I don't like that. So please no spoilers, hints, or clues. Let me be surprised for the fun times next week. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Jujutsu Kaisen. Bye.